My 2 cents on the boycott that no one asked.
Miss, surprised to see me?
Hi, friends. As many of you know, there's an ongoing login boycott in Love and Deepspace. I personally am not partaking in it, haven't been secretive about it. I don't hide the fact that I log in, but didn't really problematize it by voicing out my opinions either. The reason why I haven't done so before is that while I personally don't think logging in will amount to nothing, more so there's a slight possibility of it backfiring. I don't think there's any harm in it either, with again a possibility of something good coming out of it, though both of these possibilities I mentioned depend on the player. I feared if I was critical and were to try to be level headed and comprehensive about it, I might sound like I'm trying to persuade people into stopping the boycott or that I'm against Valko or something like that. I don't think I'm great at explaining myself, and sometimes I fear my words being twisted into something they're not. To be honest, there's this weird mass mindset people are in. Many players seem to be only or mostly interested in hearing opinions that support their own and hastily try to shut down those that don't. The same behavior can be seen in believing the sources that support their claim and discrediting the ones that don't. Basically being more preoccupied with their own wants instead of having a conversation. That being said, persuasion is not the motive behind this video. I barely have a quote unquote platform or reach anyway, and I'm not very interested in convincing others unless it's something that truly matters to me politically, like the censorship video I did previously. I'll try to tackle it all, and I hope you'll listen to me with an open mind.
Get to the point.
Now, I'm familiar with boycotting practices as a nonviolent protest method and the discussions around it. If you didn't know, boycott was coined as a term in English after Captain Charles Boycott. This guy. There are many types of boycotts: social, political, consumers, etc. And since the current Love and Deepspace boycott aims to impact the game's revenue, you could file it under consumers boycott. In a neoliberal world where the individual is reduced to consumerist practices, how much you can spend, how much you own, and the social capital you can extract from it, the only type of power and influence the individual can see in themselves is the purchasing power, which also reduces the individual to a consumer. Now, I think a clear distinction like this is needed and is good because the companies are neither our friends nor our family, and we need to adjust our expectations and relationship with them with this fact in mind. Still, in the grand scheme of things, we don't exist in this world to solely consume. While I'm familiar with in real life boycotts, game boycotts are new to me, or I see them as unique. New or unique in the sense that while I have played games before, including gacha games, I'm not a gamer. I don't follow the news or controversies. I don't follow the trends. I'm not super knowledgeable about the financial systems behind them. And they aren't like physical, tangible objects that you can buy or don't, or they are not basic necessities, I'd say, in the traditional bread, water, electricity kind of sense. So when the login boycott was announced, I failed to understand how not logging in would affect the game revenue as advocated in those call for boycott posts that circulate, and wanted to do some research. And I should maybe note that, logging in and spending money in game are two separate things. I couldn't find anything on how not logging in can affect the game revenue negatively. It's easy to figure out the practices implemented in the game to get you to spend more and build a habit that's hard to break. Daily login and notifications you get are the cornerstones for forming that habit. It doesn't matter if you just log in, use your stamina to farm for materials and log out, which literally takes seconds to a minute. Just the act of logging in a few times during the day retains your attention and relationship with the game. Kind of like cigarettes. In game ad revenue is listed as one of the revenue sources, and some claim the players logging in and seeing those ads are financially significant for a game, while others say they pay a cent or two at most. There's an interesting correspondence, though, on how to define a whale. A whale is usually defined by the amount spent on in app purchases. However, Tapjoy's SPV Ben Chan says for casual games, a whale would be someone who logs in the most frequently, since a casual game's monetization relies heavily on ads instead of in app purchases. But since Love and Deepspace doesn't place ads, this is an irrelevant revenue method. What this leaves us with is two significant revenue sources, the second one being an educated guess of mine. First and foremost, most significant is in-app purchases. Packs, monthly and yearly passes, paid cosmetic features like clothes, poses, or accessories. Not only the money a player pays directly goes to the company, it also deepens their relationship with the game and making it harder for the player to stop. Because it is widely researched, especially with regards to gambling behavior and psychology, that we start to see what we have already spent as an investment, and stopping would mean our previous investment as quote unquote going to waste, because we have already come this far. We've already spent so much. Now, I'm sure you get this feeling when you're pulling for a banner. I certainly do. When I'm nearing the end of my diamonds but still can't get my 2-meter tall cinnamon roll, it's very easy to think, like, I've already pulled 50 times and I have 20 pulls until the pity. I'm making up the numbers. I've already invested in, and it would be a waste to not go that extra mile. And that can sometimes lead me or the player to purchase packs. The second source of revenue, and my educated guess, would be the official merch sold by Paper Games in Fold and as an extension in real life events. Now, official merch requires actual physical objects to be designed and produced, though the merch Love and Deepspace get only uses official in-game illustrations, so the design process is generally not an issue, I guess. Still, merch and collaborations are important sources not only for financial reasons, since why would a company spend so much money and human power on producing these objects to or hold in real life events if it didn't profit from it? But they also benefit from the player to be online or at the event, showcasing what they have bought and talking about the game positively, and possibly attracting new players or retaining existing ones through deepening the bond and engagement as a community. They even benefit from infighting and controversies, but well, that's beyond the scope of this video. And plus, I think I would need to do more research on how beneficial negative media exposure is before it can damage the brand. I'm not super knowledgeable on it. All of this to get you to buy those packs and log in daily and be online and share your love for your favorite fictional boy with your friends and followers. But what happens when you don't spend a dime? I wondered what a strictly F2P, meaning free-to-play player, would bring to a game. And not surprisingly, you are financially non-existent unless you contribute through secondary means like, having a big platform on social media and promoting the game, which honestly, I wonder whether it would be feasible to reach such an audience with a solely F2P account. And that's where the Pareto principle comes in, which I'm sure gacha gamers are already familiar with, but for the noobs like me, here's a short explanation. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. Now, this is a rough estimation, and apparently, depending on what we're looking at, the ratio can shift from 70-30 to 90-10. But in terms of gacha games, this means 80% of the revenue comes from the 20%, and in some cases, the top 1% to 5% of spenders. Now, as you all know, these whales are responsible for generating revenue for the rest. And yes, that includes F2Ps. But of course, free-to-play players aren't necessarily that weight, since these games need communities and at times competition in the game depending on the mechanics. Plus, one of the reasons why games offer super cheap packs is so that player doesn't bat an eye spending very little money here and there, which can later on make way for bigger spending, depending on the habit formation. But I'm sure by now you understand what I'm getting at. Unless you're doing an in app purchase, you're not contributing to the revenue. I've seen so many posts or comments saying you should delete the widgets because they may count as logging in, but are we for real? Unless you open the game and tap login, you are not logging in. Just because a widget is on your phone or tablet doesn't mean you are in the game. This fear mongering is so not it. And the potential danger I see in this login boycott is that we have two situations here. Either Valko will be reinstated or he won't be. I'm focusing on Valko because the focus has shifted heavily on his introduction now. On the account that he isn't reinstated, it's possible a portion of people will quit the game, but since they'll be quitting for good, they become irrelevant to the conversation. Players will eventually come back to the game whether he is available as a love interest or not, and they will be missing the resources that were available in the game, including stamina, diamonds, wishes, leveling up materials, and the 30 pulls the game issued as an apology. And a good portion of these resources are already paid for by the player, and they're not getting something they paid for, literally. And then we have to ask what will happen when they return the game. I hardly think during the next banner they'll say, "Oh, I'll make do with what I have." No, they will be compensating for what they have missed with even more spending. If we get Valko back, great. But what if we don't? What if we barely get anything we demanded fixed, like lightning issues or renewed pool systems that favor older players? Now, one of the biggest issues with boycotting and other forms of protest as well is that while the act itself is extremely important and valuable, there's barely any critical thought about the process itself, such as who this boycott is affecting really and who is incapacitated by it, or what comes after the boycott. Not just what we do next, but also how do we change our personal relationship with the game itself? How will we manage our spending? When the boycott first started, and actually I touched a bit on it in my previous video on self-insert as well, I believed one good thing that would come out of not logging in would be players breaking the habit and rethinking or reevaluating their relationship with the game and their consumerist habits. But to be real with you, while there's a group that channels that energy into organizing events, stream parties, and sharing positive posts, both online and real life. And I feel very lucky to be mutuals with those kind of groups. There's also a huge group that is literally out there spreading misinformation to skew opinions, being racist and homophobic, and bullying others into oblivion. Well, you could say, Nora, that's always the case. Doesn't matter whether people log in or not. You'd probably be right. But the scales this is expanding to and the arguments made both for and against it all is deeply concerning, to say the least. This obsessive behavior, of course, extends to fabricating numbers and charts. The reason behind this video was the quote-unquote proof that not logging in has the biggest effect on revenue drop, namely the daily active user numbers. There was a lengthy post on Reddit being circulated last night, and, being the clueless person I am, and weirded out by the language used in the post, I Googled. A simple search told me that these numbers weren't public, though even before that, sentences like, we have meetings about this every day, should make you raise your eyebrow. Now, for example, I'm a theoretical physicist, although I left the academy quite a while ago. I might release a video on, I don't know, Xavier's light evil, and me saying I'm a theoretical physicist might give you a sense of credibility. But it shouldn't. First of all, you don't know me. And me feeling that Xavier video with batshit catchy nonsense might not seem as consequential in hindsight. I mean, you might think it's just another video on the vast sea of slop content. But the second that nonsense sounds plausible, even when being absolutely factually wrong, it sticks and it circulates and is eventually canonized unless someone catches on and puts me in my place, if we're lucky. But the damage is already done at that point. What also seems to be lost on some people is that even if I am, in fact, a physicist, I still might get things wrong. We are human and are bound to make mistakes, misunderstand, or misinterpret, even when the intentions are in the right place. So I think it's crucial to do fact checking and be suspicious of the sources. Just because someone claims to be working in a field that is related to the topic shouldn't mean that's true or they can never say something wrong ever. This also extends to posts on a red note. Just because someone is Chinese or it comes from a Chinese platform doesn't or shouldn't exempt the info from scrutiny. I understand that Infold's silence is disconcerting and there is this sense of urgency, but it's best to keep in mind that we don't know what's going on and what the reason behind the silence is. We simply don't know. Sometimes companies do horrendously on handling crises, but there are also times where they are simply unable to disclose legally whatever is going on their side, especially if the officials are involved, but even that is a rumor for now. It's also possible that we will never know the full truth. You see it in the major publishers handling controversies as well. They don't rush into explaining or get into beef directly with people engaging with the post. Sometimes the situation is sensitive, and the official statement needs to be carefully crafted and overseen by many within the company. They are not easily made, and there is great benefit in slowing these processes. And even then, the statement might come off unsatisfactory. For example, many people had their own reasons for being dissatisfied with the last announcements Infold made. Now, I'm not saying all this to defend anyone, but being realistic about what we can and can't expect from a company, what to push for, having a bit of patience, and positioning ourselves depending on the outcome or the way things go will benefit us in the long run. Now, people argue, oh, just go and play another Otome game too easily, in my opinion, especially when they mention Tears of Themis. I played it for more than 4 years, and it's a great game, but not only are each of these games vastly different, visually, mechanically, and narratively, but also we have already formed bonds with the story and with these characters. I wouldn't want to go without a fight. I'd personally really love to see the main story's completion in the way Paper Games intended it, and considering they have to plan a lot of these things long before the official announcement, I'm sure Valko was a crucial puzzle piece as well. I would hate it if censorship and removal of an essential character were to ruin that. As I've said before, I am personally in it for the long haul and I see great benefit in pacing myself, but in terms of my spending and screen time, so to speak, I'd love to take my time and savor the story. And because all the love interests and their myths together complete the main story, I'm slowly experiencing their narratives as well. I understand not everyone is in it for the same reasons or motivations, but it will be misguided to expect the company to cater solely to your wants instead of keeping an overall balance, noting that Love and Deepspace being 5 different games in one is kind of working against them.
Your mental fortitude's terrible.
As always, thank you for lending an ear to my 2 cents. Calling it a movement or a cause sounds a bit too much, but I'm all in for people supporting these events in any way they can, whether it's by posting positively, holding in real life and online events, and forming their own opinions by critically thinking and fact checking before jumping onto the next circulating thought. More so if it's something that you desperately want to hear. There's recent academic literature on game boycotts, though I wasn't able to read it beforehand, but we'll make sure to come here to yap again if I see something worth yapping about. In the meantime, there's an interesting video on this topic. I'll link it below. I'll also link a 3-episode podcast from Professor David Harvey on neoliberalism that at first glance, may not seem super related, but it's imperative that we think a bit more deeply about the way we live and question the way we engage with the world, all the while enjoying it and not losing our whimsy. See you around.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Oh, and by the time I was editing the video, apparently that daily active user article person admitted that they faked a post. And now it's deleted on Reddit. And honestly, I'm not the least bit surprised. Anyways, last minute edition over.